2024 was a decent year for the Gundam franchise. We got new releases, we got the 45th anniversary of the franchise itself, but 2025 looks to be even bigger, with new releases of games, movies, series, and of course we've got plenty of anniversaries coming up, and also celebrations of the 45th anniversary of Gundam, a massive exhibition going on in Japan, and much more. But before we dive into all of that, please do leave a like on this video and subscribe if you are a fan of mecha anime content and want to see plenty more videos like this in the future. Also, head on down to the comment section below, let me know what you're most excited for in 2025 when it comes to the Gundam franchise. And without further ado, let us talk about everything that is set to come and what we can expect from Gundam in 2025. So these aren't necessarily in a particular order. I've generally decided to talk about a lot of the series and a lot of the bigger stuff first, and then go more into the anniversaries and then some other releases as well. Starting off with the biggest one, we've got the next mainline Gundam series, that being the 16th in the entire franchise, and that is Mobile Suit Gundam Zcax. This is the new mainline series. It's going to be set in an alternate universal century. It's a collaboration between Sunrise and Studio Kara, which is of course owned by Hideaki Anno, the man behind Evangelion. Now, he is not involved in the series as much as people might think. Obviously he has some involvement because, he's the head of this studio and it's a very big undertaking. So I think he's involved in the script maybe just a tiny bit, and then there's other things like producer credit and stuff like that. But in terms of the creative side of this series, he's not as involved as people might think, but the people that we have got behind it do have excellent credits under their name, things like Fully Cooley, other iconic Gainax works as well. So generally across the board, it's got a great staff list. It is set to have its premiere of the first 3 episodes edited down into a feature-length film that's going to release in Japan on January 17th. We have no idea when the rest of the series is releasing, but if I was to guess, it's probably looking like a spring 2025 release. Now, the next 2 Gundam anime aren't necessarily slated for release in 2025, there's no confirmation of it, but I am guessing that they will likely either release this year or maybe very early of 2026. These are probably the next 2 after Zcax that will release. Starting off with Gundam Seed Freedom Zero, a prequel to Gundam Seed Freedom, of course, set between Destiny and Freedom, kind of bridging the gap between that, detailing the rise of Compass, how Shin's personality changed, and how he became a much happier person. It was initially set to be an OVA. They've said that they are reconsidering that, so more than likely this will be a theatrically released film, and that's probably the only reason why this thing's been greenlit in the first place, because Seed Freedom was incredibly successful, especially over in Japan. The next one I expected to release in 2024, that did not happen, so I am placing my bets pretty heavily on a 2025 release, and that is I Am Blooded Orphans Urdr Hunt. Now, the main reason I think this will release this year is, one, because it seems to have been in development for a while. We got the key visual back in like 2023, I think, so we've had like consistent updates, maybe a little bit far stretched in between, but generally things seem to be moving at a decent pace on this one. But it's also the 10th anniversary of I Am Blooded Orphans. Makes sense to tie all that together and be like, hey, it's the 10th anniversary of I Am Blooded Orphans, here's like your kind of follow-up, prequel, sequel, I don't know exactly what it is, but essentially another series within this universe, or another film, or another OVA, whatever direction they decide to take this thing. I'll be really shocked if it doesn't get released, but I think at the very least you're going to get a Japanese release, and then probably sometime in 2026 perhaps, or late 2025, we'll get that release in Western countries like America, Australia, the UK, all that kind of thing. Next up is something that was announced very recently and has got a confirmed release date of spring 2025, and that is Mobile Suit Gundam The Witch from Mercury Youth Frontier, which is essentially going to be a high school manga spin-off, which is weird because it's like a school spin-off of a series that is already set within a school and heavily based around that. But this is essentially going to follow Soletta and Miorin in like a near future regular Japanese high school. So it's going to be a more traditional school as opposed to, mobile suits and set in space and all that kind of stuff. I'm excited for this one. I'm very interested to see how it does play out, but we'll find out pretty soon because, like I said, spring 2025 is when it's set to release. Next up is again one that is not 100% confirmed for a 2025 release, but it is getting a network test very soon, and that is SD Gundam G Generation Eternal. I am not hugely excited for this because it's a mobile game, and usually Gundam mobile games tend to be riddled with a lot of microtransactions, so for that reason, not all that interested in this one. But I think the most recent trailer they put out, where they essentially said like, oh yeah, this game's alive after 3 years of no comment on it whatsoever, I think that trailer made it look a little bit better. There's an ounce of, not excitement necessarily, but hope that this could actually be decent. From a gameplay perspective, it looks alright, but again, I'm just worried that, one, the mobile game aspect could potentially mean a lot of microtransactions, but also mobile games in general. I don't care for them, so I would rather this have been an actual console game. I think they could have easily made it one of those, because there's a lot of SDG generation games in the past that have been that. So yeah, I don't know. Like, I don't hugely care about this one, but I'm at least intrigued to see whether it is good or not. This next thing is not a series, it's not an anime, it's not a video game, and for a lot of people, it will have zero effect on them because most people are not going to be able to see this thing, and that is the next Future Pavilion at the World Expo, set to take place between April and October 2025. For those that don't know what the World Expo is, it essentially takes place, I think, every 4 or 5 years, and it's pushing like the future of the world in many aspects. This one, I think, is very technologically focused. I'm not 100% sure. It's going to like entail a lot of stuff. It's not a Gundam focused event, but there is a whole Gundam exhibition side to it because this year it does take place in Japan. And this thing is looking pretty cool. They've got that big like RX-78-2 adjacent. I can't remember exactly the number or name of that mobile suit, but it looks like the RX-78-2. They got the big statue of that like holding up its hand to the world kind of thing. I am hoping to go to Japan later this year, so I will hopefully actually get to see this thing. They're probably going to have exclusive kits. There'll probably be some conferences there or something like that. I'm sure there's plenty of stuff at this exhibition that will become public knowledge and we'll learn about, but the most exciting part of it will actually be getting to experience it. Like I said, I'm hoping to go to it later this year, and it's one of the things probably this year in terms of Gundam that excites me the most. But like I said, for those that don't live in Japan, aren't planning on going there, it's going to have a very little effect on you. Now let's move on to some anniversaries though, and there's really 3 major ones this year that I think will get more like substantial celebrations and product releases and merchandise, and those are Zeta Gundam celebrating its 40th anniversary, Gundam Wing celebrating its 30th anniversary, and as I mentioned earlier, Iron-Blooded Orphans is celebrating its 10th anniversary. Now the reason I think that these 3 in particular will be the ones that get big celebrations is because of the anniversary dates on them. Zeta, of course, is a mainline Gundam series. It's the second Gundam series in the franchise. It makes sense that it would get at least somewhat celebrations, substantial ones, maybe gunpla releases and merchandise releases. Gundam Wing, once again, major mainline release. A lot of people love this one. It's a introductory Gundam for a hell of a lot of people, and the fact that they celebrated stuff for G Gundam last year, and I would say that Gundam Wing's more popular than that. I would expect that Gundam Wing would get celebrations and releases and all that kind of stuff this year. And then with the 10th anniversary of Iron-Blooded Orphans, again, like I mentioned earlier, I expect the urdr Hunt film, OVA, series, whatever it may be, to release in 2025 because of this 10th anniversary, but I also expect that we'll get other Iron-Blooded Orphans related celebrations. I know it's not the most popular Gundam series in Japan, but nonetheless, it's still going to get something. There are some non-mainline Gundam series celebrating anniversaries this year. Unicorn is celebrating its 15th anniversary, The Origin is celebrating its 10th, Thunderbolt I think is also celebrating its 10th as well, at least in terms of the series, and then the 00 movie, that's like a 15-year anniversary or something, and also the infamous live-action G-Savior film is also celebrating like a 20th anniversary. A lot of those, I don't expect acknowledgement, or at least much acknowledgement. If anything, maybe Unicorn will get some because that's a pretty beloved series. I mean, they've got a giant statue in Japan, so they obviously love it enough to give it a statue like that. So, maybe we'll get some things from that, but 15th anniversary usually isn't something that's majorly celebrated. And then the Origin, it could potentially get something. Thunderbolt, I don't really expect anything. And then the 00 movie, like it's a Gundam 00 movie, I wouldn't expect much in terms of that. I wouldn't expect anything from G-Savior because, let's face it, everyone in the fandom, everyone on the creator side of Gundam probably wants to forget the existence of that, so they're certainly not going to bring it up as a big 20th anniversary celebration. The final anniversary we have though is not on a series or a movie, but it is actually the 45th anniversary of Gunpla, because the very first Gunpla did release in 1980, 1 year after the series began, so this year we are celebrating the 45th anniversary of that. I would expect that we get some big major Gunpla releases this year, probably more so later in the year. Now we do already know about some pretty substantial releases. We've got the real grade Shining Gundam coming in like April time, I think. The high grade Z-Cact is coming pretty soon, at least in Japan. High grade Seed Freedom Z-Gok, again, coming soon in Japan, but later in other countries. And then the master grade Gundam Vidar from Iron-Blooded Orphans is also set to arrive. I think that's around the same time as the Z-Gok, but we've got those to get excited for, and there's other small releases here and there. But like I said, it's the 45th anniversary of Gunpla. I would expect some major releases, like some major master grade releases, some, maybe some more of those new 2.0 real grade suits. We could get things like a real grade 2.0 Shah Zaku, real grade 2.0 Zeta Gundam, which would work. 45th anniversary of Gunpla, 40th anniversary of Zeta. That is one of those real grades that certainly does need a little bit of a revamp. I'm sure that throughout the year we'll get new Gunpla releases, new Gunpla announcements. It's the 45th anniversary of essentially a toy line. they're gonna go all out because Gunpla always sells and it's really an excuse to make things. The last two things we have to talk about are something that I haven't actually mentioned on the channel yet, and they were only really announced like a couple of days ago, or at least one of them was announced a couple of days ago, another one was announced like late 2024 or something like that. Now both of these have actually just got a release date of July. I think it's either July 11th or 12th, and those are the Gundam card game, which we already knew about, but that is actually releasing in July now, and then we've got Gundam Assemble, which is a tabletop game with miniatures. This is interesting. Gundam is like pushing, or the Gundam franchise, further pushing it into like a different market, or two different markets really, of collectibles, with card game and with Assemble being the miniature game as well. Very, very cool stuff. Now, I personally don't think I will play Gundam Assemble because you have to paint the miniatures, and I'm not really into doing that. I also don't really want to do that. Maybe I'll try it out. Maybe I will be won over by it. But the card game, the trading card game, that is one that I am interested in, because that's something I've always wanted to give a try, is trading card games, but there's never really been any that have come out that have taken my fancy. I think this could very well be the time that I get into a trading card game, and of course it is because it's Gundam. All my money's going to go down and drain on it because those things tend to be a wallet drainer, the trading card games. Nonetheless, I'm going to try it out. I think it'll be pretty cool, and like I said, trading card game, miniature game, tabletop game, really cool stuff. It's awesome to see that Gundam's kind of breaking into a different market, which does somewhat like appeal anyway. Like, I feel like there's a little bit of crossover there, but these things are pretty cool and they're going to appeal to a hell of a lot of people and hopefully bring even more people into the Gundam franchise as fans. There we have it though, that is everything we can expect from the Gundam franchise in 2025. Before I get out there, please do leave a like on this video and subscribe if you are a fan of Mecha anime content and want to see plenty more videos like this in the future. Also, like I said earlier, head on down to the comment section below. Let me know what you're most excited for out of these announcements. Is it any of the series, anime stuff? Is it the new video game that we've got coming out? Some of the anniversaries and events going on? Or are you more interested in the trading card game or the miniature game? Thank you once again for tuning into Mecha Chat today. I'll see you guys next time.